Hey. Hey.
Welcome to Four Nerds Save the Universe, episode 40. Shell and
Three
Bird.
nerds and a cow.
Episode 41. Episode 41. Shell and Bird missed the episode 40. How dare you not
40?
be here for entirely arbitrary numbers that don't matter.
Haven't I missed way more than 40 and 39 and probably 38 at this point? I don't know.
I think you're just gone for 2 weeks, I think.
Whatever it was. What did you say it was? 41?
Yeah, we're 41 now.
Wow, that's how many days of Christmas there are.
Just what?
That song is a lot longer than most people give it credit for.
The modern American version where the Christmas just keeps expanding until it eats Halloween.
On the 41st day of Christmas, we went trick-or-treating.
So, you joke about that, but like the Target across the street,
I'm not
on
joking.
Halloween, the Christmas decorations go out. It's horrifying.
If Christmas keeps spreading out to consume everything else, like, we won't be able to explain to our children what the Nightmare Before Christmas is about. Because those are different holidays. Like, we won't be able to explain that to them anymore. Because that's the direction we're going towards.
I want to go, oh dude.
Thanksgiving just sits dejected in the corner.
If we ever live in proximity, we need to go caroling on Halloween.
Just go caroling in all the wrong holidays.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Valentine's Day. Fuck it. Why not?
I love you. You love me.
We both went to Valentine's Day in our heads.
Valentine's.
Well, it's like the most
not Christmas
separated out. Yeah, it's like a couple months after Christmas. Yeah, if you're doing Christmas shit, then you're doing
Christmas
the wrong thing. Yeah.
How come Christmas only goes in one direction though? Like, why doesn't Christmas go in the other direction and gobble up some New Year's
Because
time?
there's preparation involved in celebrating Christmas, because you buy things in advance and stuff like that. And in a capitalist society, that's all about doing more and more events about that, basically, to sell things. Afterwards, it's clearance sales. So
Keith, you're bitter as a ham on Sundays.
Well, that's just the reason. You gotta set stuff up in advance to celebrate the day, even if you're like putting up decorations. Whereas afterwards, it's like, eh.
At the same time, people keep their trees up through January sometimes, and then you see them.
April. You have no excuse.
Yeah, I had a friend who would keep live trees up well after they died. So like they get the live tree and then just keep it up for all the way into the summer. And there would just be like a corner of the house that was just covered in pine needles and like a dead tree sitting there. And I'm like, you should really like take this down. And they're like, yeah, we should. And that's just the end of it.
We always just had a fake tree that we jammed in a box in the garage every time and then brought back out for over and over again for 20 years.
My family, they don't do it anymore because I'm the only one that would put it together. But we had one of those like full-scale trees that you had to assemble part by part, piece by piece, branch by branch. And it was quite labor intensive, but I absolutely loved putting it up. And now that I'm gone, they bought some tiny like 3-foot thing that they stick in the corner. And I'm just like, guys, how dare you? Because our tree was just glorious.
I had a neighbor growing up who left the Christmas lights on their house on the entire year round.
Yeah,
I was going to
go for that. I think
right?
everyone had one of those people in the area that just always had lights on their house.
So I live down in Southern California where like you don't really have to worry about snow or anything like that. And so people would just leave their lights there. And I think there was kind of a community realization that the Christmas lights actually looked better than the house lights. So like I know my neighborhood, for example, almost all of them had Christmas lights year round. It actually looked really nice at night.
And then you got the go-to like indie rock protagonist of adventure games made by indie studios, where like the protagonist will have a room where their room they sleep in is it's lit entirely by Christmas lights instead of actual like normal lights.
That was me in college.
You were
it was actually really nice. The dorm lights were really bright and like mine buzzed, and so we replaced it with the black light and covered the entire room in Christmas lights, and that was just it. And it was actually really nice mood lighting. And then if we wanted to do dumb things with highlighters, we'd flip on the black lights and draw on the walls.
Oh, my mistake. Futaba's room isn't like lit up with Christmas lights. She has like glow in the dark stickers on everything instead.
And back in my neighborhood,
probably
we had
fuzzy
one of the
posters.
Yeah.
We had one of the crazy neighbors that would consistently make it into the newspaper every single year for their light display. You know, insofar as to having the Santa in his sleigh and all of the reindeer on their front lawn and a timer that counted down to the seconds until Christmas. And I just can't imagine their electric bill.
That's not the thought that I would have had, but yeah, I guess that would be pretty bad too.
I do wonder how much wattage that takes.
A lot. Those displays are really, really electricity expensive. Especially back before they started using, like, really cheap, energy efficient bulbs. Like, ooh. Anyway, so this is ostensibly a video game podcast.
I'm trying to trace back how we got to Christmas, but it's been the entire podcast so far.
Yeah, we just immediately launched into that. As
yeah,
if it
we
was
were
a
talking
plan.
about Christmas over encroaching on the rest of the year.
I don't even remember how we got there, though.
Yeah, it's just
October.
it almost rolled off the tongue so well. It almost must have seemed like a planned topic, but no, we had no idea.
Okay,
So,
then.
Hob.
Hob.
Both Wander and I have played Hob. Wander's beaten it. I have not. So we'll keep it at that level. I don't think.
It's
Keith, you've not played Hob, have you?
Nope.
Okay,
and you're
do you
probably
plan
not going to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, we've seen his list of backlogs, but
It was going to be
it's
next
really-
on my schedule when you called it a puzzle game, but then I saw any footage of it, and I'm like, that's not a puzzle game.
No, it's a puzzle game like Zelda's a puzzle game. There are puzzles there, but they're not like hard. They're just kind of like you look
Once
at
every
it, you're
30
like, oh,
minutes, you push a block in the way of something so you can get over something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's usually a little bit more. Apparently, Bird has soft locked himself out of a couple upgrades because he did the puzzles wrong, but that was about the extent of it.
I just
I
did
did
the
the
water
puzzles
temple.
wrong because I skipped the distraction elements and just went straight for the solution.
Oh.
But you're always
I'm
supposed to do
serious.
it last.
I got I walk into a room and I'll see a glowing button in the middle of the room and then like 3 things behind the button, and then I just go over and like push the 3 things, then push the button. And apparently by doing that once, I actually locked myself out of a like permanent upgrade, because you're supposed to go into the center of the room and push the button in the middle, because apparently you're an idiot and you're just like immediately gonna just beeline towards the things.
That
That
sounds
really
like
bothers me.
strange...
There's actually a lot of things in that game
That sounds like
really
strange
bother me.
design. Like that sounds like the issue of
Yeah.
like you hitting a forked path in a game and being like, oh, do I go left or right? I don't know. I'll go just enough down one side to take a look at it, and then maybe turn
And
back.
then the gate
and then
closes behind you.
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
you go halfway down the hallway and then a cutscene starts where you jump off a cliff. And I'm like, no, that's
Yeah.
not what I was going for.
Yeah,
It's a
I
l-
hate that.
It's a little questionable for Hob, but like I guess for me, almost none of it matters because like there are no boss fights, so like having extra HP is kind of meaningless. Same thing with the extra EXP bars. If it was like
I mean stamina, right?
the energy bar, the blue bar, that wasn't really
Yeah.
stamina because you didn't need it for dodging. It was
That's
mostly just
true.
to charge up your punch.
That's true.
So the entire we should probably explain what Hob is. It's kind of like Zelda, where you've got this like the older Zeldas, I'd say, like Link to the Past or Link's Awakening, where you've got like kind of this sort of ostensibly big open world that you can explore, but it's kind of locked off by like what you have available to you. You know, you can't chop down the bushes immediately. You can't press some of the switches. They're like obviously teleport pads that you can't use. And I thought there were these grates that you could jump down, but turns out that was a red herring all along. But so kind of initially you're given this big open world and then kind of guided down a very linear path, and you have to do a bunch of things, and then slowly over the course of the game the entire world opens up. But really even then it doesn't open up until the end of the game, that always caught me by a bit of surprise. But each area is kind of marked by a couple things, a bunch of different collectibles, a dungeon, if not like 2, in a couple of areas, and this kind of like purpley corruption stuff that you have to clear to actually gain access to everything, because it's blocking your path and will kill you if you try and get past it, and so on and so forth. And so by going around collecting upgrades and like turning the world back on effectively and rebuilding the world, you slowly get access to everything. I really liked, I think, more the narrative and the organization of it than the like, minute to minute. Because one area, for example, you're going into effectively a giant generator and plugging everything back in, and it lights up the rest of the world and activates everything thereafter. Or another place where you turn on the water.
I think I've tuned in to watch you play it like 5 times now for like a couple minutes at a time, and every single time you were just in transit between places.
That's spent a lot of time. Yeah, you spend a lot of time walking between destinations in that game.
To the point where I've tuned in like 5 times, and I don't think I know what the gameplay is yet.
Wasn't it a huge issue that so much of the world was open to you on a single map that it was causing everything to,
that's a separate thing, and I was going to talk about that later. For me, I'm such a completionist for Metroidvanias that, like, if I get one power-up, I immediately go back through the entire world a second time to see what side areas I've gotten access to. Even though the smart thing would be to
try to get like half of them or something, and then backtrack once, then backtrack before the end or something.
Yeah, and it actually turns out that the game was designed specifically for waiting until the end before you do everything, because until you clear out that purple goo, most areas are like just completely inaccessible to you. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get to a place. And in 1 or 2 cases, it really was because there was like a hidden ladder somewhere that I needed to take down to an area. Like I missed a whole huge section
of Mario and Rabbids, actually. Where, like, you have to keep... Yeah, in Mario and Rabbids, every time you finish a world, you get a new power. Which means you then have to replay the entire previous world you just finished, but now with that power to unlock environmental puzzles to continue. But then they get kind of dickish about it, because in the first one, you finish the first world and get a power that lets you replay the entire first world to solve it 100%. But when you do the second world, they give you the second power, but then there's also
you still need the third.
There's a third thing you need. I'm like, no. So like you'll do a second lap through the area and then realize you need a third lap.
It's like that with the Metroid Prime games. And the funny, the terrible thing is you can hear the power ups.
Yeah, it's there. So you can see it, but you can't get to it.
Go.
And so it could be beyond a shield or beyond a wall or up in the rafters or somewhere, and you're like, I don't know how to get it yet. And then you have to remember where they are to go back for them.
Skulltulas.
Yeah.
Skeletas. Yep.
But that's actually what broke me for Mario and Rabbids, where I was eventually just like, I'm not going back for the remaining I'm not going back for the remaining collectibles or not collectibles challenges. They're just not worth it until I beat the game. But so Hob kind of does that, and I almost wish they had made it less obvious that you could go back for things, like even locked you in. But that said, I think I should talk more positively. I just really liked, I think, playing it, because there aren't a whole lot of games where you're just kind of wandering around a world and solving things, and nothing is like particularly demanding, and you just kind of go at your own pace. And so I got to screw around. I found out, by the way, Bird, when you play, there will be waterfalls. I want you to fling yourself into them sideways and tell me what happens.
Okay,
because
sounds good.
As Shell had kind of alluded to, they programmed the game and they didn't think about Ryzen processors when they made the game. So, Bird, you said your performance has been like perfectly fine for Hob, right?
No, I have issues too. But they manifest in really, really, like, in very local areas. I'll just walk through, and while I'm in that specific spot, my frame rate will drop from like 60 to 20.
I watched some hardcore hitching in that game. Does it have like a de novo thing going on, or is it just actual genuine problems?
They didn't make the game for Ryzen, and then they also didn't make it load very well. So whenever you're transitioning areas, it would just grind to a halt. And if you were fighting on top of an area transition, it would load the previous area, load the next area, and then switch back and forth instead of keeping them both loaded there for a little while.
So I didn't have nearly as many problems as you had, Wander, but I did still have just random spots. You just walk by them, and you're like, oh, what is happening? Let's just keep talking and keep walking, and then it clears up. But like you definitely got the blunt end of the stick there.
The nice thing
mixed my metaphors very badly there.
The nice thing for me on that one was I had started streaming
down the ugly apple.
Yeah, I really did. I fell down it, and then it hit me the rest of the way. But so I actually started playing Hob the night before it came out, because that's when they handed it out. And the developers actually showed up, and I was like kind of waffling. I'm like, maybe I should give them time to fix it. And the lead designer showed up, and he's like, no, keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
Please just keep playing, because you're finding all of the bugs that we can't find.
That's
so we
good. They're
so
honest developers. Good for them.
Yeah, no, like it's a shame because for me, Hob is actually one of my more favorite games from the year, just purely from like an aesthetic world standpoint.
You like robots?
Yeah, I like robots. I like ancient runes, and I love like this visual style, and it was just pleasant. But so they more or less demanded that I keep playing. But the patch notes for patch 1.10.2, the third note is special shout out to Wanderbot, whose assistant singularly made this patch possible. And so like I was in this like weird standpoint where I was just like, I gotta stop because this game does not perform at all well, and like I feel like I'm making it look awful.
You had a lot of people going after you in the comments, like, "Why are you playing this?"
Somebody's like, "Turn down the graphics. You clearly can't handle this." And I'm like, "No, this is
Patch notes 1.10.2. Special shout out to Wanderbot, whose assistant singularly made this patch possible."
Yeah,
nice, dude.
Yeah. And
very nice.
Your most expensive computer possible basically can't handle this indie game, obviously.
Yeah.
What you need to do is you need to actually get a second 1080 Ti and you need to SLI them together, and then you can experience the true majesty of Hob.
Really, I need to figure out how to get an Intel and a Ryzen processor into my computer and run them in parallel. Yeah. That actually would solve the problem.
Your computer needs to dual-wield processors.
No.
You can't.
I thought it was graphics cards you could have multiple of.
I actually had this problem worse.
Next, you're going to tell me you can have multiple RAM sticks.
Kind of on the topic of poor performance, I've actually had the same problem with the Total War Warhammer 2 game that came out. That was going to be like my backup game because I got really mad at Vaporum, so I loaded it up and it was just instant 20 FPS on bare minimum graphics, and I'm just like, well, fuck this. This looks like it's out of the mid-2000s and I don't want to deal with it. So I just gave up, but it feels like I should not have gone with a Ryzen processor because it is
really
creating
sucks
more
because
problems.
those are such hyped processors.
They're
and they're
nice.
supposed
They're
to be
so
top
good.
of the line.
But is it?
But games that have been in development for longer than the Ryzen exist, for Runic, for example, they didn't have a test box. So AMD actually drove a computer to them and delivered it to them personally, saying like, here's your test computer, make it work.
And then they didn't make it work.
Well, they did make it work, but this was after the game had come out.
I get you.
And so 2 hours before I was done with the game, the developers pop on and be like, we fixed it. By the way, we had the AMD computer finally and got it all working, loaded up, and it smoothed out so much more. So now it looks like
good for them.
What you experienced, Bird. Yeah, they fixed the vast majority of the problems that I was experiencing. I'm sure they've got more.
Isn't that the issue with anything that's just so brand new that not enough has been established for it, and you run the risk of being...
Yeah, they probably just didn't even think Ryzen processors existed, but since Bird and even PS4 players have actually said that they have hitching and crashing issues, which is kind
at that
of shocking.
Point, you run out of excuses pretty fast when it's the console port.
Yeah, they've got excuses for me because, okay, Ryzen, that's excusable, but the rest of it is really? And I feel bad for them because, they're lovely people and they make great games, but at the same time, this is their third game that Runic's put out, and these guys are the guys that worked on Diablo 1 and 2. So, you'd think they kind of know how to launch a non-broken game.
Yeah.
Actually,
well, back to... that's a big part of the experience is that, it had a very rough launch, but, assuming that they have, smoothed all that out, there's still, in my opinion, it's a game that missed so many opportunities, and I don't know how much of it is on me or not, but, it's this open world game, and it's about exploration and stuff, and I constantly find myself finding little nooks and crannies and paths that I think are going to lead somewhere, and then I jump onto them.
You fling yourself to your death?
I fall through them. I clip through them. I bounce off of them. I Or in some cases, I land on them and then they just
I think like
teleport
Wander's
me and
first
kill
session
me.
with the game involved a Demon Souls style like character goes skiing off into the abyss because he stepped on a slight slope or at the beginning of the game.
I had that happen. There was I had a bug actually where I got rid of all the purple goop. I had cleared it out, and then I walked through where it was, and then my character sunk into the world, dying horribly because it had gone invisible, but it hadn't unloaded. And then there was another point where I just randomly fell into the world and died. And when you played Bird, was there that like horrible Wilhelm scream, or had they already gotten rid of that?
No, they had removed the Wilhelm scream from when he fell off the cliffs.
They used a Wilhelm
sound
scream.
engineer had been hanging out after they had patched it out, and he was the guy that did like all of the sound effects. And so I fell to my death, and I'm like, hey, there's no Wilhelm scream. And he's like, yeah, I removed it. And I was like, I kind of almost missed it. But the problem is they had added it, but I guess it was either poorly balanced or it just wasn't affected by the sound slider.
So loud.
So it was always loud.
So like, you'll hear like kind of quiet like sword slashing moves, and then you'll accidentally fall off, and then there's like a really loud, and it's just like Jesus. It is actually one of the most unsettling falling noises I've ever heard in a video game, and it felt so wildly out of character for the game. I actually found it charming just because it was such a like weird thing. But it was bizarre. And it's probably good they took it out.
Yeah, I can't stand games where whenever you take damage, your character's like, and it's just like, I don't want to listen to this. Why?
Call of Duty.
I was playing a game called Exmorph Defense recently, which is a tower defense, and you have to protect your like core. Except for every time it got shot by dudes with machine guns, it would be like, the core is under attack. So one dude with the machine gun would... Yeah.
Core.
What did you think I said?
I was like,
No, I was protecting my sexy alien bitches, and every time they got shot, the alien overlord would be like, your whore's under attack. And but there was no cooldown on it, so he'd say it over and over and over again, layered on top of each other. So if I was losing, it was as like a billion lines overlaid on top of each other.
It wasn't your core is under your attack. Your core is under, it's like your core,
Yeah,
and it just keeps
it
going.
just did that over and over
It's
and
like
over
a
again.
round.
It was horrifying.
A terrible
it was amazing.
round.
It was a fun game.
row your boat, but like on every note. So row your boat.
Yeah, it's
core,
like if
defend the core.
it's B movie, but every time they say B movie starts over again, it layered on top of the previous B movie. There you go. Yeah, I want to watch that now. God,
oh no, you don't.
That'd be awful.
The B
No, we're
movie?
podcasting. Watch shit YouTube videos later.
I wonder if that exists. Actually, I should look
You can
it up
make
after.
it yourself. You just watch V movie, and every time they say B, you open a new tab of the same video until your core
not
processor
wrong.
melts down and your job is lost.
Man,
Well, I actually had my own
Wow, I
encounter with
wanna
an indie
see-
developer.
I want to see Wander actually doing that, recording his reaction to it. Anyway,
Did they
Keith,
make
tell
a lot of
your story about
puns?
not the V movie.
Okay.
I ended up with my own indie developer encounter because I ended up playing Primordia recently, just because it occasionally comes up as a request, and it is not at all a new game. But like it's one thing when like you play the hot new indie game, or not even that hot new, but just any new indie game that's currently like people are manning the PR for it and everything. They're like, oh man, we're gonna support you and everything. Like we retweet you when we comment on your videos, all that stuff that happens normally when they're just trying to like, like look good and everything. It's
Always very short-lived.
It's a trip when you play a game from 5 years ago and that happens. Where they're like sharing your videos and also commenting on the videos and explaining like the inspirations and things going on in various parts of the game and what it was like to develop on it. And
Actually pretty cool.
or even talking about like, oh no, Loom is way better than our game and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, this is a trip. It made me very happy. I had already beaten the game before before they really started arriving, just because there's this awkward moment where you encounter a female robot, and I'm like, isn't it? I just wanted to talk about like for a moment like the weirdness of like, it's weird how all these robots have no apparent gender until suddenly there's a female character, and that one has female traits when nobody had gendered traits until just now, because like they're just robot shaped. And then it's like I get this there's this detailed comment about how like it's actually the that robot is inspired by like I think somebody at the company worked in law, and like it was based on one of their heroes and stuff like that died before the character was finished and before the game came out. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sure happy I finished before they started commenting, or it'd be really hard to like not filter literally everything. Yeah, I'd be like terrified about everything I say because I'd be like going through this filter of like this, like talking about someone's passion project.
What emotional landmine am I going to fling myself bodily onto next?
It's a real nightmare sometimes. It's like when you have the developer show up on your stream and you're like suddenly like not wanting to say anything negative at all, but also like but like stuff's going bad usually still anyway, and it's like what do I they're here. Primordia is a really cool game though. It's standard more or less as far as like the gameplay goes, with like go find objects and put them in the places where you need the objects to continue, and this guy will only let you through if you have this thing and stuff like that, and various mixtures thereof. A few little funny tricks where like you'll like use up a device and the device will break, and then you'll scavenge multiple other things out of the device that you might make other devices out of for later puzzles and stuff like that. And they'd have an interesting take on like, I think they wanted to keep the old school adventure game thing where like you can make permanent thing where you can permanently miss stuff, but they wanted to make it not be the problem it normally was in old school adventure games. So like in those older adventure games, you make a mistake and you don't know until an hour later that you needed that one item from way back there, so you have to reload a save all the way back there and replay the entire game since then, because you often went through several like one-way directions from scene to scene and stuff like that. In this game, it's more like there are certain points in the story where you can do something or not do something, and like whether or not you get the item that results from those actions at that scene will change how many endings you can get by the end of the game, basically.
Ooh.
I always like those because then so it's better than having to just replay the game. It actually means that there's a consequence for overlooking something or not.
At the same time, I hate games that give me like plot consequences if I didn't like grab the MacGuffin. I mean, it depends on how it's handled. Primordia might do it better, but like...
So in Primordia, you can get the good ending. Regardless. So it's like there are more and more and more endings. Some of them are inventive. Some of them are like weird player actions you wouldn't think to do that can create an ending. Some of them are optional items, create alternate branches of the ending because you can use them, because like the final solution, like the final scenario in the game is itself like a puzzle. And so the puzzle itself has a bunch of different solutions based on a bunch of things you could think of doing / items that you might have that were caused by optional branches and story things up until that point. So it's like, it's really weirdly interesting. It's also gorgeous.
Yeah, it's got a really nice style. It's also got a really nice, like, kind of post-apocalyptic sci-fi setting.
Super post-apocalyptic in that there's no humans, because every character is a robot, including the protagonist.
Yep. And his buddy robot. How long was it? Out of curiosity.
I did 11 episodes.
Okay, so like 5 hours.
Yeah, it's not too bad. There's a few leaps in logic in puzzles, mostly in the first part, more so than the later parts. There's like a few like,
yeah, that's where I got stuck. I was like demoing it to see if I should play it with Shell. Back when Shell was kind of like, I don't really want to do like games for YouTube, and I was like, but maybe
that was
Primordia?
Back when we were first starting out.
No, this was like really early on.
Yeah, there's some real moments of like,
I got stuck.
There's some real moments of like, I'm going to put myself in adventure game mode and try to think in adventure game logic as opposed to real logic a few times. Of like, what kind of weird, like almost joke solution can this problem have, and then that turns out to work and stuff like that.
I had that a couple of times. Bird, actually, speaking of adventure games, did you have you looked at Hive Swap at all, or no? Because I've talked about this with Keith, but you've never been around on the podcast.
This is the first time I've even heard the phrase Hive Swap.
So, Andrew Hussey, the creator of Homestuck,
what is this?
Made an adventure game.
Like
a point-and-click adventure game.
I was reading about this yesterday, or the day before that. Did this actually come out?
Yeah, it came out a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's really, actually very good. Obviously, it's not complicated. It's mostly just like, Did you like Homestuck? You'll probably like this game. Okay, done.
But people are complaining that you keep trying the pigeon on everything.
Yeah, so the thing is, you know how in like adventure games you can
Pigeons!
use an item on another item and sometimes they'll have like a funny quip?
Uh-huh.
They embraced that and then like wore its skin and then pretended that was what the game was, and that's what the game is now. Yeah.
What kind of analogy? I thought I had the worst analogy of the day.
I'm terrible at analogies to begin with, so usually I've just embraced going with the horrible ones.
They embraced
and then I wear
it
its skin, and then just have assumed that I'm it. Anyway,
Gross.
But so
what?
So every item generally has an interaction with every other item.
Fortnite wore PUBG's skin. That's how that works.
Wait,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
that
true.
a common thing with a lot of really old school games where, let's say, you had the car key, and it's like, Putt-Putt would go, I can't use the car key there. Wait, why am I saying card key for Putt-Putt? Putt-Putt is a car.
Yeah.
So the age-old joke is just to give people a lick option and then come up with a thing of like what they say as the reason you're not going to lick the 500 different things you try to click on for licking.
But like, so halfway through the game, you get a pigeon that's specifically like on the low end of pigeons, and you can use it on everything.
What do you mean by low
What's
end
the
of
low end of
pigeons?
pigeons?
So one of the characters,
pigeons?
yeah, there are 3 pigeons. The smart, brave, courageous pigeon, the kind of cowardly pigeon,
And the dumpster fire
that's
pigeon.
fast, and then the dumpster fire. Yeah, it was like even the main character, one of the 2 main characters, is like, okay, I'm not really sure if like this thing's even going to be able to fly. It's so dumb, and he sends it out to bring a key to his sister who's trapped in the house, and it manages to heroically survive against all odds. But then the sister takes the key and the pigeon and then just keeps the pigeon with her in her pocket for the rest of the game, which is like half the game. And then you can turn right back around to go through the entire game that you've already been through and use the pigeon on everything that you've already seen. Yeah. And almost all the dialogue is hilarious in regards to this pigeon and like a handful of pogs that you get that only are useful once. And
much like actual pogs.
I definitely liked Homestuck for like the first 2 acts, and then I just couldn't. I stopped caring.
For me, this felt like the first 2 acts, kind of like when it was more cohesive and there were only like a handful of characters and like immediate problems to deal with. Which is part of the reason why I liked it. That was the big thing, is that like as more characters kept getting introduced, the story got slower and slower and slower. Yeah, so I had like mild concerns about it, because you do end up meeting one other character, and as soon as you do, like the dialogue jumps up a lot. But for the most part, it was definitely running around and like quote unquote solving puzzles that really were just like use the obvious thing on the obvious other thing. Yeah. But I guess wanted to mention it because it was fun.
I liked Homestuck through the felt, and then I liked the trolls. And then as soon as like the alternate version of the troll started appearing, I was like, I'm out.
I think you and I both stopped at the exact same time, except for I stopped because he went on hiatus, and I was just like,
that's when the number of characters in the story literally doubled.
Yeah.
And it was already a big cast. It was already like 30 characters, and then it was like, and then here's a alternate reality version of every character.
Here's also all of the characters that were dead. They're kind of alive in like Ghostland. And it's like, wait,
that was
hold up.
Right when I was done. Like the Wandering Nomad, is that the one that I'm thinking of? Like around Ghostland.
Yeah, something like that. I just remember there were like dream bubbles, and it was just like, all right, I'm checking out.
That's the one I checked out.
But the interesting thing for Hive Swap for me was
Wander cosplayed as a Homestuck character? Is that what you're about to tell me?
Yeah, Dave, within like the first, couple of years of Homestuck being a thing. So I was like, okay, I'll just be Dave, because that's an easy one.
That's the easiest one.
Yeah, exactly, because I had blonde hair at the time. So I was just like, all right, this is easy peasy.
Yeah, and he poked me in the eye with his massive, what was it, a duct tape sword?
I made the sword.
The beatbox?
No, the really shitty, like, thing? The really, really shitty sword.
It looked like demonic magic. Weird. I don't know. What was it?
It was a joke item he got that only had negative stats.
Oh.
That's all I remember. But it looked awful, so I like just had the excuse to make an awful looking sword out of cardboard and duct tape.
And he proceeded to poke me in the eye with
it. Unfortunately that was the last of cosplaying for me. Because
what about Finn?
I got this was after Finn, I believe. Wasn't it? No,
No,
you're right.
it's
Finn was
before
late.
Finn.
Finn was the end. This was the beginning of the end, and also the first cosplay I ever did, where I got hugged by more people that weekend than I think in the last decade. And I was not okay. I'm not a very huggy dude. It just always feels weird, especially when people have like body odor or lumps that where they shouldn't probably have lumps.
Wait, yeah, I think Bert heard the story before, because this is when I said during EDF that he inflicted his body upon you.
Yeah, well, that was the Finn
Finn
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Finn. That was like the true end because the guy
that
was
Adventure
Stank Master.
Right.
Yep.
The one awesome thing about wearing my early suits of Samus armor was that people wouldn't approach me. They'd like ogle and like ask for my picture and stuff, but they very rarely would come forward to actually want to hug me. And if they did, it would have to be very gently because I was like, my shoulders were like twice as broad. I was like behind a helmet and everything, and it was just way too much.
I think people kind of understand you don't hug the armor because that's where shit gets broken.
Yeah, but also, I couldn't fit through doors. I couldn't sit down. That was difficult, but it was funny because half the people were like, "Are you a girl?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yep.
I am." And they're like, "Oh, that's cool."
Samus.
It's like the legends.
I think one of my favorite things to I think one of my favorite things to come out of Homestuck is Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff.
Yep.
I think I showed Ladybird Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff a couple, like at least once or twice, and she was just like, "Why are you showing me this? Do you remember Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff?
I tried to forget it.
Do you remember this thing that I have on my monitor right now?"
Wait, what?
Yes.
Who are these characters? I never got into Homestuck myself, but
Sweet Bro and
everyone
Hella
was
Jeff is a
cosplaying as
parody
trolls.
of bad webcomics made in MS Paint by like little kids, like 7-8-year-old kids who have no ability to make any art.
Do you know what this reminds me of, though? There's been these new apps that everyone uses lately, at least for Facebook or something, where there's really nicely drawn pre-rendered characters that people can customize, and they have...
Ooh, like the hot dog.
Like the hot dog?
Yeah.
And you can have them do just like interact with pre-rendered objects and stuff, and you can make avatars for your friends and show them interacting, and people have been using that.
Or there's like Control-Alt-Delete where the faces haven't changed in a decade and a half.
You don't know what the hot dog is? Here, I'm going to paste it into the podcast.
It was actually really funny when we went to that one convention as Finn and Marceline, because I was prepping my makeup and all of the trolls from Homestuck were prepping their makeup, so we were all just like plastering ourselves in light silvery gray makeup. Though I did contouring. That's always necessary.
Hey, at least silvery gray makeup is probably pretty cheap, right?
Yeah, I was able to find a package that was made specifically for vampire. Well, actually, yeah. I mean, Halloween and Marceline's a vampire. It just makes sense that you have... It was on the pale side of a gray, so it had the right tonality for it.
What's the story of the hot dog? Out of sheer curiosity?
I don't know. I think it's one of those memes that became a meme, ironically, and then it just became a meme.
Okay.
Did someone make a hot dog comic?
I think that's just how all memes work.
I know.
Because people were talking about fandoms I don't understand, I zoned out a little bit, and I browsed Steam a little bit, and I encountered a true gem of shameless advertising.
Uh-oh.
There's a game called Tower of Lust, and its banner image on Steam is clearly like a woman with her arms up, and she has no clothes on, and it cuts off just before you get to the boobs, and it's like suggesting that she's doing something. Then you look at the game itself, and it's like Terraria.
Whoa, what?
All the screenshots of the game are just straight up like Terraria looking. It has nothing to do with the image.
In that image, it almost looks like she's maybe shackled to
there's like some
a pillar
bondage,
or something.
Like
It looks like
going on
something's going on.
Are you saving someone from the tower? Or
it looks like it.
Because if it was the Tower of Lust, maybe there's
I don't
some
think
vile
saving
demon
is
that
quite.
captured
I think it's not so much
poor
saving
young
as
woman.
like transferal of captorship.
I just wonder if that banner image actually helps them get sales, because like normally when a game is being that shameless, the game actually is also like that. Like I think of all like the visual novels and the Sakura games and games that are like ironically or unironically about like women wearing like almost no clothes hitting demons or something. But like this one has like that kind of avatar banner thing.
Yeah, they could have,
and then it's
they could have knocked
Terraria
out
graphics.
they could have knocked out the buxom chicks and actually had like a probably kind of passable game. Instead, it's like weird, sketchy.
I don't know, because when you go below that's for the more like this section on Steam, it takes you to Dragonite, which is a thing that straight up has like a ridiculous banner image that's super sexually explicit looking, and then a full size version of that on their screenshot gallery that's even worse. And well, when you look at the actual gameplay of the woman, also just kind of dressed like that, I guess. So it's technically not lying. At least it's just questionable that it's doing it in the first place. It's just weird to see this Terraria looking thing where it's like a bait and switch.
Are there like cutscenes or
apparently the point of this is monsters stole your porn and you have to go back and you have to go and get it back.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Monsters
the game.
stole...
The point is to like go to this like tower where a bunch of monsters came and stole all your porn, and then as you progress through it, a gallery unlocks. And you collect like,
and they get to, then it gets to show the viewers the collection, right?
Yeah, yes, but it's literally like not even like pornographic.
No, it's literally just
like
anime girls in bikinis.
It's just like anime girls with like cat ears and bikinis.
Oh wow!
Like,
the thing is, like, you don't even
collect them like puzzle pieces.
Oh, there's
like you have to collect.
pieces.
You have to get like 30 pieces of a single, not very well drawn anime girl in a bikini.
Wait, so does that mean that the critters like tore up the posters and they're like, we're gonna take all these pieces?
I love this picture.
I warned
of this
you
lady's.
guys. I warned you guys years ago that Xbox Live Indie Games dying as a market was going to make all of those things flood onto Steam through Greenlight and whatnot.
Absolutely true.
Oh yeah,
it's been true.
You.
Yeah,
it's been so true. In fact, in many cases, literally those franchises moved to Steam, like game for game.
Speaking of Xbox, Wander and I were talking about this recently because our Xbox One has been languishing unplayed for a while. But when are there going to be exclusives? Is there any reason to have an Xbox and a computer aside from the fact that Halo exists at this point?
I have no idea.
Well, the crazy thing is Halo 6 will actually be coming out on Windows 10, so... They're losing Halo. I was actually trying to look at...
They're losing Halo exclusives.
Yeah, I was actually trying to take a look at... have you ever like looked at Xbox One exclusives 2017?
It was a funny article.
Just go do it now.
Hilarious.
And then flip through that list and see how many of those you recognize. And how many of those look to be true exclusives.
2017. GameSpot?
Any? I've looked at a number of them at this point. GameSpot, Trusted Reviews.
We're talking about not counting PC games, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about what on the list isn't a PC game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like that's a Cuphead issue too. It's like Cuphead is a quote-unquote Xbox exclusive, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also releasing on... Yeah, it's also releasing on PC. So like technically I can kind of understand where they're coming from. And I think it wasn't...
I've either never heard of these games or I've heard of them and they're also on PC.
Yeah.
Right. Precisely.
In the entire span of me having an Xbox One, I used it to play my Rock Band library because it was all on Xbox and they were making it backwards compatible, so you had to stay with the same account that you used to play Rock Band on. I played the Master Chief Collection with Andrew, and yeah, the only time I've ever popped up my Xbox for the specific purpose of like let's do a let's play of this game and stuff like that, and I have to do it on Xbox was I technically needed it to play Inside earlier. Earlier than the PC release because it came out on Xbox One first, and that's the only time in the last like 3 years I've touched my Xbox One for let's play purposes.
Yeah,
was it worth it, Keith? Was it worth it?
Inside's fine.
You made a rich man richer, Keith, but did you make your life richer? Price.
Listen, I picked. Everyone's richer in a very gross way after playing Inside.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were just flabbergasted because it's like, well,
Yeah,
why even have a console if you're already distributing your
picked up
games
my,
on Microsoft?
I picked up my Xbox last year for my birthday, like pretty much a year ago. I turned it on for Recore, and I haven't turned it on since.
Recore was on other stuff, wasn't it?
It was on the Windows Store.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, last game I was interested in playing on Xbox One got canceled. Scalebound.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
that's
was
just
that
not
exclusive
happening.
to it?
Yeah, it was going to be exclusive, which is like, why do you cancel your only potential real exclusive that isn't just a rehash, a remake, or also already on PC?
Something was probably going poorly with it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
People were saying negative things about like previews and stuff like that near the end before it got canceled. So it might have been that the actual project just wasn't panning out, but it almost killed Platinum.
Yeah, from what I heard, Platinum was kind of going all in on it, but Microsoft was like kind of giving them the runaround on details, and like the combat wasn't shaping up because both sides had different ideas, and it wasn't going well.
Yeah, the game getting canceled almost destroyed Platinum, and they might not be a company right now if Nier hadn't done so well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a
You might
weird
say Nier was
background
their
story.
Final Fantasy.
They were near bankruptcy.
Okay, you win.
Yeah.
How many of us are planning on playing Cuphead?
I'll probably play with Andrew in co-op.
I don't think I'm going to play it.
We were debated it, but Carl.
I
thinks
wasn't
that I won't
debating it. I was
survive.
like, I will play this if I'm ever in like physical proximity to somebody else, but if I play it with Shell, you're just going to be angry at me. You're not going to be angry at the game. You're going to blame me for bringing you onto that experience, and I think I will preemptively avoid that, knowing what I know.
I mean, it just reminds me of all the old cartoons that I used to watch that my grandmother had given me from New York City.
It reminds
it was-
everybody of those Max Fleischer
It was
cartoons.
That's
Little
literally
Lulu,
that's
though.
literally the entire point of its creation.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't mind Cuphead. I'm like toying with the idea of playing it tonight, but it's kind of, I put it in the same boat as Fury to almost some degree, where I'm not against playing Cuphead, but the idea of sitting through and beating the whole thing sounds like more work than I'm going to have fun with. And so it would be a lot easier for me to just pass on it until I had somebody that I could play with that maybe we could reasonably beat it, or at least, make good content out of it. Because if I play it alone,
really good at bullet hell side scrolling things.
Yeah.
like
and
I was watching Cox and Krendor play it, and they would just go silent for boss fights because they couldn't even like commentate.
they couldn't
over it.
concentrate.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
and those two are pretty good at commentary at this point, especially as a duo. And I was just like, yeah, maybe I'll do it if I like literally have nothing else to play, especially because it's not that expensive.
Half of it would be lamenting my demise. No.
Yeah.
For
But,
me,
like-
it's like I love boss fights, but I'm not crazy about Mega Man.
Yeah,
And that's kind of the thing they're going in with, like the jumping
Is
around
there
and
even
shooting
any
to the right.
content outside of the boss fights to
there
speak
are
of?
levels, but
Yeah,
not
but
much and not long. For a number
Yeah.
of them, it's like the levels where it seems like it matters are the kind of the auto scroller ones.
yeah.
Those ones seem like they're a little bit more designed. The actual platforming levels are like you rush through them and then you go fight the boss, and it's like, well, I guess.
I don't know. I'm really glad that it exists, and that I think it'll make a lot of people happy, and I hope that lots of people play it, but I don't know if I really want to let's play it, is really what it boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Yeah.
seems like it doesn't, there's nothing grabbing it enough that, to me, that I feel like I'd be able to offer like anything unique
Yeah.
about it. And then, like, I don't know if I'm skilled enough to, like,
Well,
make it a cool experience outside
That's
of
the
just
other-
like talking about it.
that's the other thing I ran into. It's like, whenever I look at a game, it's like, is it already getting coverage? Yeah. Then maybe I think I'll just give it a pass. Like,
Isn't that every video game?
not really.
Yes.
Like, what's a good example of a game that I picked up recently that wasn't? I mean, not exactly in the same vein, but Hob actually didn't get a whole lot of like large YouTuber support. So I didn't feel too guilty about playing that.
What about Echo or other things?
Echo is a perfect example of a game that almost nobody bothered to play except for me. I think maybe like one or two other channels have played it at this point. But it was a neat game that nobody else was even bothering with. So I was like, all right, well, this is a good opportunity for me to pick this up and play. And I won't, like, I don't feel like, I don't feel like Hob needs me to play it. Like, technically no game needs me to play it, but it's one of those where... It is one of those where it's like, it's a shame to pass on a game that is decent. And,
don't leave us, Wanderbot.
Like,
we need you.
Play us.
That was how people talk to me. There was like, it might have been, I don't remember if it was one person over and over again or different people, but people were acting like I was betraying and disservicing Tides and Numarina because I wasn't playing it, and that I'm like,
Numenera?
as if like
Oh.
I'm screwing it up somehow. I'm like, what? I'm not their PR. I don't work for them.
It's just one of those that's like, if there's already like a ton of other YouTubers playing a game, sometimes I'll just be like, all right, if I'm already on the wall about it, it's probably just not worth it for me. And like, there are some other games that are like clearly getting overplayed that I'm still going to overplay it anyway, because like Breath of the
People are
Wild
gonna
was
watch
amazing.
it. Yeah.
But like at this point, not exactly in the same vein, but
hasn't
Mario Odyssey is coming out in a couple of weeks, and at this point, I'm not going to touch it because one, obviously, a bunch of other people are going to play it, but
Just
two,
Mario. No one's ever heard of that.
Yeah, you shared something in the chat about Nintendo barring people from streaming it.
Nintendo has come out recently saying you cannot stream Nintendo products on YouTube, that it is not covered as part of the Nintendo Creators Program, and so as such, people are not allowed to stream Nintendo products there. They haven't figured out how to get an angle on Twitch yet, so they haven't banned it there.
1 step forward, 12 steps back.
Was it really 1 step forward? It was like a half step.
Well, they weren't banning
I
people
will
for
give
covering
them
their
credit
games anymore.
for a step if I'm giving them negative 12.
All right, fine.
I am a fair man.
But apparently they've already banned some people for that, so that's
Wait,
concerning.
banned?
Yeah.
As in...
from
They're
YouTube.
kicked off of
Ooh.
YouTube, or they kicked off the creator program?
Supposedly,
Or kicked off of streaming.
I'm not entirely sure. The problem is all the reports are kind of hearsay. It's like, my friend got banned, so I'm like,
Yep. The
Yeah.
Persona 5 problem of like, I'm not touching
yeah.
it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
well, I was actually trying to do some research for that, because, I'm still playing
it
that
got
game.
really bright in my room all of a sudden. Sorry.
Sunset starting?
Apparently the sun just broke through the clouds, and then I looked over at my stream, and I saw that I had
Oh
become
yeah, that never happens for
It's
you.
getting
incredibly-
dark around here.
white.
I mean, you
There we
sure
go.
that's not just
Oh.
you?
The whitest in all the land.
Sure, it's not the end of the world?
Bud catcher. He catches buds by blinding them with his white.
All right. So when are the 7 dwarfettes showing up?
The 7 clever boys.
Yeah, stay away from those apples, bird.
Clever boys.
You've seen that, right,
Yes.
Keith? Okay.
Yes, I
I've
have
been
not.
binging JonTron lately. I don't know why. I just started watching a lot of old JonTron stuff, and then, like, literally today he released a new video.
I could not tell if he was like kind of trying to sponsor that footage.
The flex tape.
Ironic. Yeah,
Oh, my God.
it just felt weirdly forced, but I don't know.
He did have to.
I just
well,
stay away from it now.
he outright says he's not sponsored. Like 1 minute into the video.
Mhm.
That's probably for the best. I know. I've never watched JonTron for anything other than game stuff because his movie content just feels weird.
Movie content?
Yeah,
I like
he will.
his
lampoon
videos on the
movies.
bootleg stuff in particular.
Yeah,
Like the
bootlegs are
bootleg
good shit.
Pokemon and the bootleg Disney videos are really
I
funny.
liked the. I really liked the bootleg. It wasn't Disney.
Bootleg
It was the.
Bootleg Disney's the last video game video he made, like 2 years ago.
Is it really?
It's the last one that's not like a sponsored video, which is all his videos now.
Now, those are the 3D films that come out usually
Yes.
a couple months, like, or two, like a little bit before the actual release.
So
And
some of them are
then-
bootleg Disney video games, but he did
Oh.
do specifically about a God, what was it? Like there was this one that was like it was a ripoff of like the Fievel movies, like about like these Italian mice going on a boat and coming to
An
America
Italian
or whatever.
mime? Okay.
It's so funny. and like the dialogue is all in this broken, half-translated English. Like there's one scene of it where there's this dog there's this cat that's going to try and eat one of the characters because cats eat mice, and then a dog comes running out to save the mouse character, and then the mouse character says like, if it hadn't been for you, I would be somebody else's digestion. And then the dog bursts out into like a 2-minute rap song where he just goes like, it's party time, it's party time.
No, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Don't take me back.
Yeah, man.
Don't take me back.
And he's wearing like basketball jersey and shorts, if I remember. And then the movie continues, and like, oh god, it's so nuts. So like the 2 adult dogs from like 101 Dalmatians are characters in that one. And then like it's also about like Titanic. That's right, that's what it was called.
What?
Titanic,
It was
the
called
story
Titanic,
continues.
the legend continues, I believe.
Yeah.
Which,
That
was-
by the
so
way,
we're-
by title
mice-
alone, that makes no sense.
So
Yep.
the mouse family hitched a ride on the Titanic?
Yes,
to
they
get
did.
To...
They hitched right on
Oh.
the Titanic.
This was
Trying
magically
to go to
bad.
America. Oh god, I forgot. I love that
Bible
one.
goes almost west and then to the Marianas Trench.
Titanic, the legend goes on. Yeah, you're right. The legend goes on is what it's called.
Right, because
So what
even
happens
the
in
title
the end?
was
Do
like
they
weird,
freeze
kind
to
of
death
fake
in the
English.
water? Do they get on a tiny
No, they all
piece
live,
of...
I remember.
Yeah,
Um,
it like
They'd be able to find flotation easily.
it
No,
did
they
not
all
have.
they all go on the lifeboats. Like they
Yeah.
apparently have enough lifeboats this time around, and everyone's fine.
But they're mice, so aren't they like hidden amongst
Well,
the humans?
but
Or is
yeah,
this anthropomorphized?
it's kind of one. It's kind of one of those where like the mice are kind of clearly not supposed to be there, but people also like.
So is it like the Rescuers then, where they have their own society?
They just put on
Yeah,
mustaches
sort
as
of.
disguises.
Kinda.
sort
yeah.
of yes, and sort of also very much no. Let's not get too deep into the lore and plot of.
Or let's go way
Titanic.
too
Legend
deep.
goes on.
Legend goes on.
Wait, we can talk about all the video games featuring mice that are coming and have come out.
What?
We
Is
can
that a
talk about all the
topic?
mice video games.
Is that an existing topic?
Do you
that
have
needs
a
to be
nice video
explored?
game you'd like to bring up?
Well,
Well, there's Moss.
There's Moss, there's Tunic, there's actually a bunch of like weird mouse ones. Oh shit,
Is
did we
anything-
talk about the
is there
Redwall
anything-
game?
The Red Wall.
There's a Redwall
Oh,
game.
right.
Yeah, look up the Redwall. Look up the Redwall
Oh, gosh.
game on Steam. Just search Redwall. There's only one.
Oh my god, that's
Yep.
a badger. That badger looks scary. Oh
Yeah.
Oh, is that the Unity debug settings?
Yeah. So
Oh.
so for people that don't know, for some bizarre reason, there's a Redwall game coming out. Clearly licensed to some studio that has no
Allegedly.
business. Yeah.
We'll
There's
see
no
if it actually
business.
comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. It was supposed to come out, and then it was supposed to come out like this past week, and they've
I
Well,
love
they
Red
haven't
Wall. I think I've read
not
15
made it,
of the
but
books.
it clearly didn't come out on time.
He's read more.
So we'll see. Yeah, I've read most of the Redwall books, but
And you have a signed copy from
but
Brian Jacques.
they had like a Kickstarter for it, but I don't think it succeeded. And then like all of the Steam store page is just nothing but like weird kind of Unity asset pictures and like just very clearly not ready for production.
And also, isn't it going to be another sneaking game? Like
Yeah.
avoiding enemies and...
Yeah, I couldn't really tell what the proper gameplay was, but
So the Kickstarter succeeded, but they got 17,000 of their 11,000 goal. And for a video game, I'm like, what is that money even paying for?
That's
Yeah.
a faux budget move.
That's not
video
That's
game.
like that seems less like a Kickstarter for a project and more like, hey, we can get some money out of people, right? And just going for that much, because like that is not a video game budget,
That's not
even
enough money.
vaguely. And they had weird Kickstarter bonuses too, where if the Kickstarter stretch goals, if they got more and more money up to like 100,000 stuff like that, were like, we'll make this map in Minecraft. because they have an ongoing thing called Abbeycraft that's like a Minecraft thing based on Redwall, but it's like those are custom Minecraft maps. That's not game development. How is that a Kickstarter stretch goal?
This sounds like it's a bunch of fans that just wanted to make something, and yeah.
It sounds like
what
it
else
might
has
be
the studio made? I've never heard of this
It
one.
might be a Minecraft fan community that was making Minecraft maps of Redwall, then somehow managed to get the actual property for it.
No, this is apparently the third game they've made. They've been a studio since 2008, and they've made G Prime, Wind Up Robots,
G Prime, a
and
game
now
that came out
Redwall.
over a year ago and still has 0 reviews on Steam.
Yeah.
That's amazing and impossible.
Since 2008, Soma Games has been showing the world something different. We started showing what hope and beauty could look like in a video game.
Did they say that somewhere?
This is on the bottom of their website. Hold on.
Oh my
Hold
god.
on, don't make me laugh. I'm going to try and get through
Don't
this.
make me laugh.
Okay, let's hear the spiel.
We started telling the, quote, right kinds of stories, not by wagging our fingers and preaching what games ought to be, parentheses,
Isn't that
or
what they
ought
just said?
not to be, but by demonstrating what they could be. We presume intelligence. We reward adventure. Our motto is from the Psalms, fearfully and wonderfully made. We're not making time wasters, we're making art. We're not killing brain cells, we're shaping minds.
Nah.
Wow. And then underneath their logo, okay, holy crap, everything about their site is amazing. So it's Soma Games.
They
and the
shamelessly use Da Vinci's, like, whatever his man
is the
as his...
Vitruvian Man.
Yeah, he's the...
Yeah.
They use the Da Vinci Man as their logo.
Isn't the Vitruvian Man, like, also, like, a copyrighted thing?
I don't know.
remember?
It's probably like some off-brand version of it because nobody notices
think
that
of this-
Soma Games exist.
It's so ancient.
So
I don't know.
you can't copy the piece itself, but at this point, the Vitruvian Man is too iconic to be copyrighted as like
Right.
a thematic element.
Because
if
didn't
that
they
makes
use
sense.
that for like the Alien campaigns in the past and other things where you had, or the Terminator?
Well, it's also old enough that like any kind
It
of
exists
implied
way
copyright
before.
is dead. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's not copyrighted by Da Vinci, obviously. But, I mean, like, I thought that, like, the image itself was, like, something that the curators that own it, like, are very, very anal about. And, like, the government of Italy doesn't let it, like, go out and stuff.
I believe with stuff like the Vitruvian Man, generally you have to actually license the image from the art, like the holder of the exact piece, which oftentimes
something
is
like that.
museums and whatever.
I don't know how this one specifically works. But yeah,
It gets
underneath
weird
the
with
Soma
art.
Games logo, it's apparently this is their motto. Terribilitates magnificasti me mirabilia? Which
Google
I
that
guess is
shit.
Latin?
Yeah,
Google
yeah.
that
It's like
shit.
it's like
Okay.
Oh my god.
memorabilia. So the Terra.
If you
Make
look at their
terrible
video
games,
game,
profit from it. Have nobody question it. Good
if you
luck.
look at the gaming footage that they have on their Steam page, like it's just like they have one that's a 90-second trailer where the entire trailer is them slowly panning around a mostly empty gargantuan room where there's one rabbit and one badger standing in front of a fire, and the badger keeps warming his hands, and there's no
Can you
decoration. Like there's like nothing
It's
here.
that Psalm quotation. It's fearfully and wonderfully made.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that the Terrabilia would be fearful and then
Yeah.
made. Okay.
Like one of their gameplay, one of their trailers to instill confidence in this product is literally just 2 character models standing in a room for 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And what confuses me the most is like, obviously that badger looks terrible, and like some of their later stuff, like the Q2 2017 pictures, look a little better. The one that have like the mice in a field somewhere, and they're all labeled with when they're from for some reason. I'm just wondering, like, why do you even show a Q2 2015 terrible nightmare badger on this page? Why are they not curating? Why are they not curating the pictures on this page to get rid of the shitty ones when they make better ones?
Those are usually actually what you send to like shareholders and stuff to show your progress. We had to do those for Nintendo.
Yeah, this
Or not
shouldn't be
Nintendo,
on
sorry,
Steam.
Nickelodeon. Yeah. No, this is very clearly a game made by people that like
Don't know how to sell a game, probably.
yeah.
Like nothing
I'm-
on their page. All these pictures are all nightmare garbage. Like in-house like stuff you would send to other people via email within your studio to update them on how projects working. And like only the very last pictures, which are both 2 pictures of basically the same thing, look like something you'd even start to show to audiences. And even that is like not promising. I don't know if there's a single piece of footage or audio or anything anywhere on any of their pages that even resembles gameplay to show you that the game works. It's just a series. Like all the videos are camera panning around a room, and all the screenshots are like random figures. It's just a random figure standing somewhere, or usually, shamefully, just a 3D model in a 3D model viewer in the thing that it's made in, and they took a screenshot of the software itself. It'd be like as if Shell submitted art for a commission, and it was literally a picture screenshot of Photoshop being open.
Oh no. I found the official website for the game.
Well, so the interesting thing I'm thinking, maybe they're just doing the art assets first without doing any of the actual game itself.
Oh yeah, plenty of people do that, and then they forget that you can make a video game without art, but you can't make a video game without programming.
Yep.
Yeah. Boy,
this website is oh boy.
Brought to you by Squarespace.
It's broken.
I mean,
just scroll around and just watch as like none of the elements are.
Oh
like,
yeah, no, I
put
just
the
went
link
to the
in.
bottom. I went to the bottom of the concept art.
Sorry,
There's a bunch of concept art
a
at the bottom, and if you click
podcast.
on one of them, it just takes you back to the top of the page without loading the concept art.
Yeah, none of the concept art loads. If you scroll around, the art doesn't actually work correctly.
Wait, there's a better badger in the concept art area than there is in the actual game. He's T-posed and there's a spear floating in front of him, but he looks way better than the one that they show to advertise the game on Steam, at least.
Yeah, whoever they did to got to do some of the concept art actually isn't half bad.
Well, there's a huge Redwall art
good
community.
stuff.
Unfortunately, there's a gap between what it takes to paint and what it takes to make an entire video game.
They would have been much better off just getting like a team together to make like just a point-and-click adventure game. Like straight up, that probably would have actually
a 2D game probably would have been.
Yeah, graphic novel. Hell, a dating sim. Fuck it. Let's just go straight up there.
Oh my god,
Redwall dating sim would probably turn out better.
But practically everyone in Redwall that ever had a love interest had them die.
I'm just saying this right now.
That's
it would still
ending.
be better.
Die.
It would still, it would
everyone's
follow
love
that
interest
general
and then
no,
you
it was
die.
never the main protagonist that died. It was always the love interest.
Yeah, the love
died.
interest, or like someone that might have potentially been one that, but like
poor Triss and Shog and Rose and Martin and
yeah, but like.
Spoilers.
Gonna be honest, that horror would probably be better than the horror that this game will never be, because it probably is never gonna get finished.
It's one dude. It looks like the studio is literally just one guy.
Oh.
As far as I can tell.
I think it's more than that, because like I've seen their posts in the past, and it sounded like they were going to do multiple. Like one of their Kickstarter stretch goals was remaking the Redwall Abbey in Minecraft, which looks like they did anyway, like beforehand. So I was confused by that.
There's probably still a big Redwall community that
sorta
pushes in for things.
I mean, it's kind of hard to have a long-lasting community when the source material is literally dead. So,
Aww.
but everyone has their fan characters. It's almost as I wouldn't say it's.
That's not what you want to build a community on.
No.
Original
I
character
know.
I'm gonna build a Sada community on OC. Oh shit!
Well, no, that's the
God.
thing, though. If you ever look up Redwall and DeviantArt, it's everyone has their own sort of fur Redwall
We need to
Sona.
escape this endless
Can
loop of freaking fandoms we're talking about today.
Can we do like the thing that we were doing earlier with like Blank the Hedgehog with Redwall?
Yeah.
What would we even look up? Like
Oh god.
Keith the mouse.
Keith the Mouse? Keith the Badger?
I mean, with the commonness of my name and the existence of the furry community, I don't know if you're really going to have any real guess at it being actually Redwall when you get there.
Probably
Keith the
not.
Redwall mouse.
I'm just put Redwall in it and hope for the
It
best.
could work.
I'm looking up Keith Redwall character, and I unfortunately can't find anybody.
Aw.
What even is Redwall anyway?
You've never read what? Redwall?
Oh.
It was
No, I've
like
never read Redwall.
so it was young adult
Yeah, it's
slash
more meant
like
for
kids.
middle schoolers.
Yeah, it was like middle schoolers. The books were definitely like more kids oriented. There were some mature themes, but for the most part, it was fairly kid friendly.
It usually took place at Redwall Abbey. And
it was like low fantasy. There was kind of magic, but for the most part, it was.
They're usually roving bands of rats and ferrets and stoats. Yeah, they're always evil.
Yeah,
or shrews and moles and.
It kind of did the Lord of the Rings thing
and
where you had like the evil races and the good races, and the good races lived in like
the
small
Badger Lords
civilizations.
were awesome.
Yeah, and there was always some kind of conflict or whatever all over the place.
This
And
fan
usually-
art, the artist really, really should have rethought their silhouette while making this piece. Because there
were 2 animated television series, or 3.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I think there were 3
they were
animated
okay.
television series.
But so
Ned
they were
Wahlberg
effectively
read
just-
Redwall by the Redwall.
Yeah, it was just fantasy books meant for
Okay.
it was just
Little
fantasy
kids.
books meant for, kids. There
Like
was like
cartoon
400
animals
pages
with
long, though,
shields
which is
and
insane.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I had
a
friends that did
medieval
read them.
anthropomorphized
yeah.
animals.
I liked him a lot. I met the author. He was great. He made fun of me.
Why?
Why?
So my elementary school had us look for vocabulary words in our books, and we had to mark them with Post-it notes.
What
And
did you pick?
Brian Jacques, I don't even remember.
Or did
what
you
the-
just bring your book in and it had post-it notes everywhere?
Yeah. So
Okay.
effectively, I brought in the book, and it was just chock full of them because he uses a lot of like kind of not smaller words, but definitely an easier vocabulary for kids. Since they were his target audience, and so
But still some eloquent language in there.
yeah,
If anything,
I
I think
mean,
it was
it got-
archaic.
it got
Some of
flowery, but it definitely like if you were searching for like basic 4th grader vocabulary, you were going to find it in his books. And so what ended up happening was I had like hundreds of these little Post-it notes in there being like, this is this word, and so on and so forth. So my entire book was like twice as wide because of it, and like just covered in colorful little like tabs. And he was like, so what's all this then? Because he was
English.
I think he was Welsh. I could be wrong.
I think he was
but-
born. I think he's Liverpoolian.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so he was
He
from
writes
there. And so
colloquialisms very well in his books.
it was the first time I got made fun of by a British person. It was really weird because it was also one of the first times I've like ever encountered somebody in person with that accent, and it felt
It'd be
It
like
didn't feel-
getting insulted by John Lennon. You'd just
Yeah.
be like, what?
yeah. I was very confused, and
Is it
then
because
I had
it
to move
sounds
on because there were
polite
100
when it
people.
could not be, or it is polite
Yep.
but it sounds sterner than it should be?
I don't know. It
Because
was
of
just
the
a weird
accent?
feeling. And then I went and bought like the books that I was missing because they had all of them there, unlike the regular bookstores. Then he died a few years later, and I was like, "Huh, that was weird."
Oh.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are
anyway,
they Christian
any other?
novels?
Wait, what?
Are they Christian novels?
No.
No, not really.
Okay.
He
They're not
did have a
like,
couple of like. He did have a couple of like religious-ish books, but not the Redwall ones specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, the
'Cause
red
the only-
They were self-contained.
The only people I know who read Redwall were like really like hardcore.
I think
Christians,
it
too.
was. I think it would easily fall within the vein of stuff that like people could look at and be like, yeah, that's probably like kosher for our like limited reading set. Like you could look at it and be like,
passes
this
the
is
Bafford test.
yeah,
I
exactly.
think it
Your
was
mom
just
test.
sort of like the traditional knights versus bandits kind of
Yeah.
moral.
For when your kids grow out of Winnie the Pooh and need a little bit more killing in their literature.
Huh.
But they dealt with interesting issues. Like there was that otter that had been raised by ferrets, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like nature versus nurture and
But then-
like morality of murder and
One of the
some stuff.
one of the
it
most
didn't pull the
depressing
part
ones
punches.
was a mouse at the abbey had raised a ferret, and he never felt like he fit in, and then he got back with his own people outside the walls and ended up betraying everyone and
Yeah, murdered somebody, and
Yeah.
they more or less just abandoned him to his fate. It was pretty heavy stuff for kids-ish books.
I was actually surprised that she had to let him die, or he sacrificed himself at the end, did he?
He sacrificed himself, so
Okay,
there was
so
kind
he
of the
sort of
redemption,
redeemed
but it was just
himself,
like
but-
it was still he was a jerk.
Yeah, for a while though, a lot of people were like, "Why are you even wasting your time? He's one of them."
We could go on about it for a while, but like I said, source material is literally dead, so I just wanted to make fun of the video game for Why did you
For
hire these
being
people to make the game?
A train wreck.
But
Yeah.
why are mice so identifiable to people? People always
I
make
don't
the
think- I
mouse
don't think
the
they were
hero.
hired.
I think we're just in a fluke. I don't identify with mice. I see mice and I'm like, you're not a person. And then I walk away.
You just see your bunnies every day as you walk by
You
the
do it in a
cage
fight with
feeding
your
them. It's like,
bunnies?
haha,
If you saw
you're
a bunny
not real
character,
people.
The bunny characters were always
What?
hilarious in Redwall, though. Though, wouldn't they correct you and say that they're a rabbit? I'm
Hares.
not hair. They're hares.
Yeah.
I never really realized how much rabbits look like rodents until I owned 2 of them. And now, whenever I look at them, I'm like, you kind of look like a mixture. Like, you don't look like a mammal, but you don't look like a rodent. You just kind of look like you're halfway in the middle. Because they got like
Yeah.
the 2, like,
Make
you got
up your mind.
they got like the teeth thing going on, where they got like just like the 2, it feels like.
Yeah.
But they're also mammals.
Their
They got-
entire genetic code is a game of cat and mouse.
But rodents
Yeah.
are mammals.
Yeah, okay. This is the joke.
Anyway,
This has been a very long running joke. I've been
So,
insisting for a very long time that rodents aren't mammals, just to try
Yeah.
to troll people.
Just
Okay.
because
he gets
people-
them every time.
every time it works.
It is invariably. The first time I think Bird really pissed me off with like this was him insisting bats weren't mammals or some shit like that.
I kept saying that bats were bugs.
Yeah,
What?
during
What?
it's just- I just
Fuck
could
off.
not like process the fact that he was fucking with me. So
But no,
can we?
rodents are
I'm gonna
mammals.
forcibly change the topic. Keith, you want to talk about Vaporum at all, or no? Not really.
there's not a ton to talk about with Vaporum. It's basically somebody else made a game that that scratches the same itch that Grimrock does, and it's been like 4 years, I think, now since
Yeah.
Grimrock 2. So it's nice.
Yeah,
to
there are
have
not a
something
whole
like
lot in that
come out.
genre.
And what's
And-
the genre?
It's like first-person dungeon crawler.
First person.
Specifically
dungeon
Western
crawl.
style, though, which is like such
Yeah.
a different thing because it used to be a thing in like the 90s and stuff to have a bunch of games like Eye of the Beholder and stuff like that on PC, but then no one made them ever again because they weren't really profitable or something. I don't know.
Isn't
Interest
Grimrock
must
2
have
coming
Well,
out
they're
soon?
they're awkward.
interest
It's
must
not
have
a
waned.
yeah. It's not a type of gameplay that I would say stuff like Skyrim and whatever kind of killed it because
But on the other side,
it's more
like
engaging.
Japan took it and ran with it because like
Yeah.
Japan has made like I want to say they've made like 3 games or so in the genre like every year. But
yeah,
they're-
Nippon
but they're
Ichi
so-
Software publishes them all, and it's really weird because I still get the emails from that. They don't send me their good games; they just send me their dungeon crawlers.
and
I'm
their
like,
their games are a
"No."
trap. Because if you want that kind of like the Eye of the Beholder looking game, like you get into those games, you're like, it looks just like those things when it's like screenshots. Then you start playing, you're like, oh, you trapped me.
Hmm.
It looks like a dungeon crawler, but really it's mostly like you walk around a little bit and then you get into a fight, and then that fight is basically the core game. And they're usually games that are mostly about grinding. And from what I've played so far, because like I went into a kick for a little bit where I was like Grimrock 2 did well on my channel, and also I had a great time doing the series. So whenever a grid-based first-person dungeon crawler would show up, I'd take a look at it. And between like Stranger of Sword City and the Fall of the Dungeon Guardians and a few other things I looked at, like they never were what I wanted again. Because the whole thing I liked about Grimrock was that it had a huge focus on level design. You're supposed to look at the level, fully explore every little nook and cranny while looking for secrets and maybe solving riddles and puzzles along
there
the
were
way.
secrets inside secrets. It was like the Great Hollow in Dark Souls 1
Oh yeah,
everywhere, which was
There's-
nuts.
there's so much stuff to go through in that game, and it was like Grimrock 2 and 1 were both joys to play. I beat Grimrock 1 in one weekend back before I was doing Let's Plays, and like I loved it. And so far, Vaporum seems relatively faithful to that idea. Whereas, like the Japanese take on this approach, the trap is that the dungeon doesn't matter. It's mostly a series of hallways that lead to a boss, and at most there's like a few keys along the way you need to proceed. But mostly the gate you have isn't about like exploring or solving things or anything like that. It's just about grinding until you're powerful enough to actually be able to beat the dungeon, and it's like not anywhere near what I was hoping for. So far, Vaporum seems true to what I wanted, and the main difference it has between itself and Grimrock is that Grimrock was almost true to a fault to Eye of the Beholder and stuff, to having like a 4-person party and individually managing them by clicking on their portraits and stuff like that, and clicking on them to attack and things like that. In Vaporum, you play as one character that's in like a steampunk suit. And so you can swap out a left-handed weapon, a right-handed weapon, and 2 to 4 gadgets, which are basically spells, but steampunk spells. So it's like flamethrowers and acid throwers and stuff like that. And they made the combat a bit more snappy by making it so that you're WASDing and stuff to move around, and then you left-click, right-click to do left-hand and right-hand weapons. And so it's a bit more focused in that way. I'm only 3 floors in, but generally I'm happy with it. It's what I was hoping it would be.
So, have you made it to the library or not?
3 floors in.
I don't. The library is kind of distinct.
The 3rd floor is haunted.
That might be it. I don't know. I actually rage quit it. Then you're 1 floor behind where I stopped. So did you go melee or did you go magic?
I went with the tech suit.
Okay, so I went with that too. I just could not handle how the game handled its combat. It got really annoying for me. Because the game has the tech, which is cool, but the elemental effects, you always have an enemy that's resistant to it. So you pretty much, if you have the wrong tech equipped, you have to like more or less reload and be like, okay, I guess I got to take the acid off because one of my 2 spells is totally meaningless for this fight.
Well, I don't reload, but I actually I open my inventory while I'm running around to swap out items, like as if you were changing your weapon in Dark Souls in a boss fight. Like I do that.
But like, I ran into a couple of fights where it's like, here's a flame guy and here's a acid guy in the same fight, and I'm just like, this, come on. So like, I actually put it down to minimum difficulty, and I was still getting like trapped and murked by things. I'm sure it's probably because I'm like not the greatest at this sort of game either, but it just got so like onerous. Because I liked Grimrock for like exploring around and looking at stuff and like finding secrets, and for Vaporum it always felt like, oh, you found an audio log. By the way, there's enemies behind you now, and I'm like, I'm listening to the audio log. I want to like, I don't want to be like surprised by every chest I open up is when the enemies show up, because it starts to become tiring.
That's never happened yet for me, like a single time.
You might have gotten lucky or missed it or something, because like, I had it happen several times, and I was just like, I'm just tired of this, because I don't, like, I'm down with combat.
I think it's because I'm always listening, and like, you can hear any enemy moving when they're around. So like, I know whether or not enemies are still in the environment. They don't generally ambush you.
So what happened in this case was I opened up the chest to get the audio log, and I immediately just clicked on it, and I had the audio way up, because generally I like pre-balance everything, so if there's voice acting, it's like really loud in comparison to the game sounds, because I don't want to hear like a person talking and also hear like gunfire over it, because that's really annoying.
So did you turn the game audio way down or something?
Fairly down, yeah. So the person talking just wildly like drowned it out, and so I like turn around and I've got 3 things behind me, because I was instantly in an acid pit with a thing shooting at me, and I was just like, what? No. And it was just like the most obnoxious thing ever, because for me there was like no fanfare, and it was just like, I don't mind the game, but it feels like there's too much of a focus on combat for how few enemies there are and how limited the mechanics and supplies there are, because like, I don't like the resistance thing that much, and like, I don't want to hot swap them, and then like half the time I go into a fight, it's just like, here's a room that is 6 tiles total with like 1 extra tile that you don't want to step on because you're going to get hit, or you're going to get trapped in there and die. And then the enemy you're fighting lays down acid fields that cover all 6 tiles, so good luck, and the doors are locked and you have to deal with it. I'm just like, so I guess I'll just sit here and wail on the thing, because trying to dodge it just seems counterproductive. And maybe I've just like got the wrong gear at the wrong time, but every time that happens, I just like, by the time I hit level 4, I had no healing items left, and I was being fairly stingy with them, and I was just like, this has become stupid for me, and I didn't like it anymore.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I guess you're having an easier time of it. I don't know.
Let me check. Yeah, because in my last recording, I'm about to hit level. I think I'm about to hit level 4 because I just finished the 3rd floor, and yeah, I currently have 3 healing items left, and I think I'm doing fine generally. Yeah, I haven't really had any frustration moments yet, but I haven't experienced the exact floor you're talking about.
it just was kind of fight after fight after fight with minimal, like, loot. And I was just like, this is not what I'm interested in. Because I'm down with fight after fight after fight if I have some way of, like, getting my HP back.
Are you square dancing?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm square dancing. Well, so I also went tech, so my entire strategy is to leave a damage field and then run away.
Yeah.
And
I've seen people be, like, literally not understand that.
No,
and then they go in and they're like, this game's impossible. Because, like, if you just stand there and fight a dude, like in the Japanese ones, you literally can't play the game.
Yeah. I know how Grimrock combat's supposed to work. I don't like it. I actually really wish there was an option that just locked it down and rebalanced it for that, just because I don't like square dancing. I find it extremely jarring. With the, like, having to do WASD to square dance around, but you also have to do the rotation. It's like, just let me do, like, first-person combat, like Skyrim style or something. Because it just...
I find the maneuvering around to dodge attacks more engaging than turn-based combat, which usually is this almost immediately turns into the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's this enemy.
I
fought him before this way, so I'll fight the next 20 this way.
They weren't discussing literal square dancing.
No.
Yeah, because I was like, what?
So for those that don't know... For those that don't know,
square dancing would be great.
I actually convinced him to take country line dancing with me back in college.
Didn't take that much convincing. Like, I've done square dancing before in elementary school and stuff, and I enjoyed it.
It was mostly line dancing, like electric slide and other things.
That's
really
the thing.
Complicated stuff, but then the only things that we were partnered for, I partnered up with him. We had just started dating, and it was like, okay.
The country line dancing class itself is just like, how do you feel about, like, turbo jigs? Gotcha.
Hey, it got us to sweat more than anything else.
That's what it was. It was awful. It was probably the most exercise.
Turbo jig.
You had to, like, do so much.
And twirls.
Yeah.
And
it was an involved process.
Shut up. The first thing I thought of that could do fast, that'd still be recognizable. You tried taking any familiar song, you can't just speed up like Cotton Eye Joe really fast. People aren't going to recognize it.
Isn't it already fast?
Well, like,
people might recognize it.
Yeah, to be totally honest,
wait, you didn't speed up Benny Hill. It's already that speed.
Oh, true.
You did a normal speed.
Shut the hell up.
Your point doesn't make sense.
Imagine Cotton Eye Joe at high speeds. Like, that is... That is what it was.
Show?
It was nonsense.
There were some
Joe, but every
ones,
time
so then
they say Cotton Eye Joe, it gets twice as fast.
Yeah. There were dances like that, actually.
Where'd you go? Where'd you come from? Cotton Eye Joe.
So, like, that's kind of what it was, though. Because there were some songs where it's like, okay, here's the dance, and at the midway point, you're going to have to do it twice as fast. And it's like, what? No. I'm already having enough trouble getting this done as it is.
Now throw your dance partner.
Yes.
Don't worry, this high school has liability insurance.
We never had to worry about that. This was college.
College.
But the worst part for me was immediately after this class, I then had like 6 more hours of class. So I was like stumbling into class afterwards, like tired and sweaty and really hungry and just no break time.
So just to explain to people that have no idea what we're talking about, when we talk about square dancing in these games, all the way back since Eye of the Beholder, when an enemy attacks you in those games and swings at you, there's a specific timing to them attacking. There's a timing to people moving from square to square on the grid. So you can physically just change your location by moving in the level to evade enemy attacks while they're priming at you. And you essentially can continually bait people into attacking and dodging them over and over again while you wait for like various cooldowns to be ready and essentially like manage your cooldowns and your attacks versus theirs, and try to hit them while they're busy doing some other action so that you can then dodge away during their attacks and then punish them when your attacks are ready. And, it's about dealing damage without taking damage, essentially. It's essentially a grid-based dungeon crawler implementation of how you do your average Dark Souls fight, essentially. If you're not, assuming you're not just face-tanking enemies in Dark Souls.
Really old school style of video games.
Yeah.
I'm talking like this style of gameplay predates the internet. This is a very old way of designing video games.
The weirdest thing about Eye of the Beholder, which I only recently actually looked up, was that it was weird realizing how like at times Legend of Gurmok is like a pixel perfect recreation of that game. Because like all the way down to like enemies will drop daggers that plop down on the ground like perpendicular to the direction you're looking in, and they'll be laying there on the floor, and you physically like click them and drag them to your inventory on the side of the screen, and like all those kinds of weird details. Like it's actually weird how accurate Grimrock is to the roots of the franchise, and in a lot of ways, Vaporum is not only true to that, but also like at times there's parts of its presentation that are also almost slavishly true to Grimrock specifically. But yeah, it's very much like there's people who specifically are fans of this exact thing and are trying to keep it alive, and Vaporum's the latest one, which is good because the Grimrock people aren't making a Grimrock 3.
Yeah, they're making a tactical RPG.
They're making a game that looks really questionable.
Yeah.
I look at that stuff and I'm like, this looks like not even the same studio. I don't know. Like, maybe it'll turn out to be great when it comes out, but like, so far I don't even really like looking at it. Like, it visibly looks
looked rough,
odd.
yeah.
I don't know.
Let me just look at what happened to Legend of Grimrock in the new video games.
So somebody who was...
What's the title of this game you're talking about?
Legend of Grimrock?
No, the new one.
Vaporum? Or you mean the
or
new
are you
game?
talking about
the tactical game?
Yeah,
it's
RPG.
Druidstone. You're looking for Druidstone.
No.
What a name to call it.
Anything that has the word druid in it at this point should probably have avoided using that because of that stupid Curse of the Druids or Mystery of the Druids, whatever the hell that game was.
For me, as somebody who has so far played 2 first-person dungeon crawlers that they didn't like just because they're trying to recapture liking Grimrock 2 so much, it's nice to find Vaporum.
Oh, speaking of druids, you were starting a campaign with your housemates, Keith?
Yeah.
Okay, what character are you playing in that?
I don't know.
Also,
Oh.
Drez.
I was invited to a character-making session on Thursday. So there's
Is it
literally
you were invited
nothing
to it
to discuss.
on Thursday, or the session itself will be on Thursday?
The session's on Thursday. Thursday we're going to make characters together, I guess, which I've never done
Wow.
before.
It's sort of
so like,
Druidstone looks
plan out
really
stuff.
dodgy, by the way.
yeah.
Well, so I am going to look at it. It looks like Druidstone has only been in development for like maybe half a year-ish. Maybe a little bit more. I mean, that troll actually looks really good, or whatever that.
The player characters are the ones that are
the player
iffy.
characters look awful, but that troll looks decent.
The environment and the enemy look...
Even
Yeah.
there's something looks off-putting too about their weird like square grid system that they show.
No, it looks atrocious.
Yeah,
I'm
like, I don't-
hoping that gets fixed along the way, because the UI is garbage.
Yeah, I don't know. The game just immediately looks like it's... I don't know. Maybe it's a little early to show.
Yeah.
Keith, whatever
It is
character you do
probably
end
too
up
easy.
playing as, you should probably try to avoid playing as a weird combination. Like, like a paladin cross with a bugbear or something.
Yeah. I think
Who would ever do that?
I think you should be Lord Genericus on the fighter.
Lordo Genericus.
Yep. Long sword, metal shield, plate armor.
My
Silent
name is
protagonist.
Alfred Hero Man.
Alfred Hero Man.
Nickname is I want 18s or I'm going home.
What?
Give
his,
me 18s, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
18
the
slash
stat
0
rolls?
zeros. It's
Huh?
got to be the 0 It's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm a paladin with 18 strength, 18 intelligence, 18 charisma, 20 wisdom.
So
And,
I had a Let's Play session that reminds me of, and possibly will remind all of us of why we don't generally play older games, because of the sheer number of hurdles you go through in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Andrew and I decided to record The Bouncer for the PS2 because it's this bizarre ass game that I have fond memories of, and I wanted to go back to it, especially since I keep like mentioning it from time to time in various contexts, because it's a strange little game. And yeah, the game's like a 3-hour long game total, and that's only if you're screwing. I mean, actually, it's closer to like 2 hours if you're not screwing up and dying and stuff like that. Like it's very, very brief, like many of the like beat 'em up arcade games essentially that go to consoles and they turn out to be like 90 minutes long or less. But it's bizarre because it's a game where all the characters themselves are members they're bouncers at a bar, but immediately ninjas kidnap your girlfriend and it goes full Square Enix in about 30 seconds. to being like a weird like fantasy sci-fi bizarre like all the tech and buildings look like Final Fantasy VII aesthetic, like that kind of weird like here's the factory that is ruining the earth and stuff like that. And it's bizarre. Like you at every mission you pick one of 3 characters, and the characters you pick at different parts of the story can lead to story branches that change the direction the game's going in, almost like in a visual novel sense. But instead of making decisions, you're literally just picking which of the 3 characters you want to play as.
No, I've seen games do that before, but I can't say precisely which one. Must have been something really old.
I want to say Zone of the Enders did something like that, didn't it? If we're thinking of old games.
It might be the first game. It might be the first game I've ever seen as a kid where like I encountered a flowchart for a video game. Because I think I had the strategy guide, and I think it had something like that in there. But what was bizarre about our experience playing with it is just how many things can go wrong just trying to record an older game, and how much of a mess that becomes. So we
Especially if it's a console game.
Yeah, so we're just trying to play a PS2 game. So first of all, we had to go through all the hurdles of just acquiring the hardware and software to make this whole thing work in the first place, because we were all geared up to play it like a week beforehand, but then we found out that Andrew's disk drive is just dead in his console. So I actually acquired a PlayStation 2 Slim just to make this work, and I was like, it's fine, we're just gonna make this work, and hey, as a consolation prize, maybe later I'll do like an Onimusha playthrough or something. And things just kept getting worse, and it's like it's elements of technical problems and also being out of your element. Because on a technical level, we had to deal with the fact that every time a PS2 switches from in-game graphics to like pre-rendered cutscenes and back, it essentially stops transmitting video for a moment, which means that means when you're recording with the Elgato, it cuts to like the screen that says no signal and stuff like that in the middle of playing, and then cuts back to the recording. Then we had the issue of like realizing that the PS2 had this incredibly weird, misguided idea of having pressure-sensitive buttons, which is a concept that's never been used since, so it's easy to forget it ever existed in the first place. But the
you
PS2
do heart attacks by pressing a button harder?
Yeah,
Is that what it
the
is?
PS2 has pressure-sensitive buttons where it can actually measure how heavy you're pressing the button, which I don't really remember that coming up contextually in like any game ever.
It
basically
only came up in like really, really early titles because they were like, it's launch, you need to show off all the features.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
like
they had to
it's
show
like
off
a
that
Wii
feature.
it's like a Wii release.
Yeah,
We got to force motion controls in this. Oh, it was a mistake. So like this becomes a nightmare because you try to figure out the combos for your characters, which first of all, you can't look up your move. It's a fighting game essentially where you can't look up the move list of your character. You can every level you acquire points. You can spend on life, attack, or defense, or buying new combos. And if you buy those new combos, those tell you their moves, like what buttons they are. But you can't look up any of the moves that you start with for some reason. So there's an entire secret move list you start with. And on top of that,
the manual, Keith.
On top of that, they didn't, like some fighting games used to do, like they don't tell you what button the moves are. They'll be like SP plus J, and you're like, what? So you have to figure out the secret meaning of all these letters they're telling you, and which one's triangle and which one's circle, because they all like mean something like jump or mid or something like that. So you have to figure out the secret things. And then you have the issue of like there'll be lowercase or capitalized letters, meaning that you have to hit the button lightly or heavily. And some of the combos are literally like hit the button hard, light, hard on the same button. So a lot of the combos are one button, but you have to master this ridiculous like sensitivity system. And that's a whole nightmare in its own. But then
this is why I like the HD remake trend recently. Like Okami is coming out in an HD remake form, and I'm like, yay, I can finally play Okami, because boy am I not going back to an older platform and trying to go through that shit.
So it became a nightmare where like Andrew was having to like research the game while I was playing it to try to help me play the game, because like I was having an issue where like I was hitting circle, and I had circle would do 3 different moves that I liked, and I couldn't tell which one was going to happen. I eventually figured out one of them would happen if I was pressing forward, but the other 2 would happen if I was standing still, and the one I really wanted to do was one of those 2 moves. So that's when he looked it up and figured out that it was pressure sensitive inputs, because I was like, because he was like, just do that move, that one always works, and I'm like, I can't. Like, I'll just hit circle 3 times in a row and different things will happen, and I don't know why. And
yeah. It's
amazing.
very easy to like record old games. It's very easy to record new games. It's really hard to record those games that are like between that, where it's like PlayStation games, very hard to control.
It's real easy
record.
to go back to Castlevania 1.
Yes, it's very hard to record like Castlevania Symphony of the Night or something.
I mean, they made that easy for us by putting it on PS3 and Xbox, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, now.
A lot of old games are going to PC, thank goodness. So,
But like, it was so like we had an additional problem because we're using used hardware because that's all that exists anymore. So we'd get the moves, and all the moves were like hold. We eventually figured out via a key that Andrew found online that to use special moves you purchase, you have to hold L1 then press the button. But because different pressure of pressing the buttons would lead to different attacks constantly, what happened is I would hit L1 and press the button, and a different move would happen. So I thought I was doing the move I was trying to do. It turned out, and we only found this out during like the final boss of the entire playthrough, the controller I had purchased, L1 and L2 were broken. So they didn't work the entire playthrough, and I didn't realize they didn't work because I would press the same button and get different results. So I thought that L1 was working, but it was actually just the pressure-sensitive inputs. I'm like losing my mind here. And just to top off the long-ass list of problems going on just trying to record this game, when we were finished with like our 3 hours of recording, we look at the video, and all the video has interlacing problems.
Oh, no.
So the entire screen is combed all the time. So like we need to try to find it. We're trying to find if there's any way to like de-interlace it in post to make the video look better. Otherwise, like I'd have to either throw it away or
so you
something.
can run stuff through, but I don't know if how well they work. I've de-interlaced a couple of things.
It's
by
super non-ideal.
Do you mean like the pixels for different rows are off
Yes.
by like a couple?
So,
that's what I'm thinking.
So interlacing is a way to make low frame rate in old games look higher frame rate, basically. And what it is you never show the image as it is. You show half of the image interlaced with the half of the next image. So on old monitors and old displays, this looked really good because those old displays were fuzzy and nothing was ever like pixel perfect. On new monitors and new displays, that looks horrible because we can have pixel perfect accuracy, or at least like much closer to it. And so on new monitors, everything looks really fuzzy and gross, and you see like ghost images of everything. Like everything is you have like double vision all the time, and you look at
whenever something is moving
footage.
around, it looks like there's combs sticking out of it.
Yes.
Huh.
It's not great news, and it wasn't showing up when we were recording it, but it showed up in the recording. You're like, fuck.
Yep.
So it's probably similar to if you're watching a 3D movie without the glasses, like the new ones that are
That's
in theaters now.
Good analogy, yeah.
The problem
Because
that
it
we
looks like
encountered,
it's double vision.
the problem we encountered is that like we managed to fix the interlacing problem in the recording itself, but then every time it would cut out to do a pre-rendered cutscene or something, then cut back in, it would then come back interlaced. So like our fix that we thought we did at the beginning of the entire playthrough only worked for like the first few minutes, because then it broke itself every time it would go to a cutscene. It also
That's bad. What were you using? Were you using an Elgato?
We're using an Elgato and then like a RGB to HDMI converter and stuff like that.
Oh,
it's a mess.
That converter will probably be where you're getting interlacing issues from and stuff.
Trying to make the shit work is such a gargantuan nightmare.
Because I don't think Elgatos have interlacing, do they?
I don't know.
Yeah, they can take in interlaced video, but
So
but the cutscenes would reset it.
I also encountered a completely baffling design oversight, which is that in this game, you can remap your controls and you can change the sensitivity of the button press sensor and stuff like that. Which I was like, oh godsend, this fix everything. So like I'll remap it so that like the hold down button for your specials is R or something like that, and I'll I can like go around the broken controller and I can like turn down the sensitivity so that I have to press it way harder to do the hard ones, because I was doing the hard ones by accident when I was trying to press it lightly, and I could not even figure out how to press lightly most of the time. Much to my surprise, when you're playing the game, like in the game when you're in the games, like during fights and stuff like that, like there is no pause menu where you can go to options. So you have to go to the options menu on the title screen. But then when you load your save to play the game just reverts to that save's settings. So that means that the only way to change settings is to start the entire game over, because you can't load an existing save with your new changed settings, because it will only use the settings that particular playthrough started with, even though it's And when you pause the game, when you pause the game, like 5 options show up. None of them are options. Like they're all like quit and various other things and stuff like that, but none of them are like an options menu where you can like change the audio mix or remap your controls, because that game actually had remappable buttons. You could remap every button like a PC game, but you can only do that preemptively when you don't know how to play the game yet. It was bizarre, but that game is a weird secret treasure. And I'm probably super biased from playing it as a kid, but like part of me wants the Yakuza people.
It's not a good game.
No, it's not a good game. It's not a good game at all. But part of me
pretty bad.
Part of me wants the Yakuza team, especially since Yakuza 6 is like supposed to be the end of their franchise or something. I want them to make a new The Bouncer, where they take that storyline that was originally like a 2-hour game and make it into like a 20-hour action RPG like the Yakuza games. Because first of all, it has the same the combat is like 1-to-1 easy conversion between Yakuza and The Bouncer. Like they are like 3D brawlers. Like they're both attempts at making modern versions of that idea, a modern like 3D version of the old brawler genres. But also when you go in The Bouncer, like every single scene is a plot twist. Every scene is a plot twist and a secret reveal of this character being the brother of that character and all these 500 things going on. Like, if that game was stretched out over 20 hours, they could actually make it work, because the game itself, it feels like you're playing through 3 seasons of a show in 2 hours. It feels like one of those Dynasty Warriors like adaptations where they totally mangle the story by making like Arslan work over the course of a 10-mission video game and stuff like that. So like
there's one part of The Bouncer that I really like, and that is the character names. Every character has this beautifully crafted name. The rest of the character design is stupid, but the character names themselves are so fun.
What are the character names?
Oh, they're great. So, there's like this multiplayer mode where you can like beat each other up, and you can do like 4-player.
And the announcer says all of their names when you click on them.
Names, and
like
they're
Duragon C. Mikado.
Yeah, so they have all these beautiful names, and there's this announcer that's just like is so into it, and until you hear it, you probably have no idea like why I'm making a big deal out of it. But when you do hear it, it's like this guy just be like, Sion Barzad,
Mugetsu,
Lefo.
Isn't that what they do for Soul Calibur?
Chaldea Orchid. That's
but they have even better names because they don't make any sense. They're not people names.
Yeah, their names are like Duragon C. Mikado, Dominique Cross, Echidna, Chaldea Orchid, Kolefo, Mugetsu, Sion Barzad, Volt Kruger, and Wong Lung.
Volt Kruger. Every time you think a character, Duragon C. Mikado.
And there's 4 Duragon C. Mikados in the character select screen.
Yes, you can have
every
4
time you
different...
fight him, he becomes a new playable character in the versus mode for some reason.
Yeah, so you have to beat the game 4 times to unlock the all the characters. And the only thing that changes is the end of the game. So it wastes your time pretty badly, but it's also a 2-hour game.
The entire third, so the entire middle third of the game. So like the whole first part is Dominique was kidnapped, so you got to get to Duragon's.
You mean like, Dominique Cross?
Dominique Cross was kidnapped, so you've got to go to Duragon C. Mikado's mansion, and after you fight him and his panther friend Chaldea Orchid, he presses a button, you fall through a trapdoor, and when that happens, you pick the next character to play as, and you're stuck as that character for like a third of the game because they get separated from the other 2 characters in unique content. So that makes the replay better. And then there's
true. Kolefo section is actually kind of neat.
It was
it's
great.
Like a stealth.
That's the one we did. That's the one we did.
It's like a stealth section.
You
have to like sneak
gimp mask because like the ninjas look like gimp people, and you're wearing one with a full mask so that they don't recognize you. And they do a different pose to each of the 4 face buttons on the PS2. And every time you meet somebody, you have to do the same pose they do by remembering which of the 4 face buttons that pose was. And if you screw it up, they're like, "You're not." It's like you're an imposter, and they fight you. And so you're going through like this weird like faux like it's like a segment that they would put in a Metal Gear game.
It sounds like an awesome game.
To Metal Gear. It's not. It's a really bad game.
It's a really bad game.
It's so bad.
It's awesome.
It's such a terrible game.
It's
a beat 'em up.
stupid B movie.
The one thing that we haven't
like
talked
mediocre
about is that
game. Awesome.
It's a beat 'em up, and it's like one of the worst in the genre. Because
I just like the idea of having a storyline where you choose like the characters at different intervals and it branches the story out.
Character stories are very uninteresting.
Oh,
yeah, the plot itself is like it's paper thin. So it's like Durgan like captures Sion Barzad's girlfriend Dominique, and then like I guess Dominique was actually like a clone or something. Is that what happened?
Dominique is secretly an android.
Because
it's almost immediately revealed via flashbacks that Durgan C. Mikado, as a child, would go from like hospital to hospital trying to save his sister, and then it just cuts away, and it's like, oh, what happened to that sister? And it turns out that Dominique died, and the Dominique Cross is an android replica of her that he apparently made at some point to try to recapture
but now he's
Dominique
dating
as
her?
a person. No,
Yeah, the main character has been like sleeping with an android.
Sion's
an
dating
android
Dominique.
sister.
Yeah, no. The android is the sister.
Sion is the protagonist. Duragon is the villain. Dominique is Duragon's sister and Sion's girlfriend, but also a robot.
It's such a bad.
Okay.
And it's also like hilariously badly written in every single scene forever. Like, like when they're like, Dominique is dying, and Duragon's like, please, you have to help my sister as a little boy and stuff like that. And they're like, sorry, the doctor's out. You're gonna have to find another hospital, and then just close the door in his face. And it's like, what? what hospital is this? And like we're like, and you're like wondering like, how did Sion never realized Dominique was an android? And weirdly enough, that is oddly covered by the writing, but also just raises new questions because before at one point Sion hugs Dominique and Dominique's like, you've never even hugged me before. I'm like, how long have you been dating? That you've never like even touched each other before? How does this work? And also Sion is note for note Sora from Kingdom Hearts on every possible design level. Like it's baffling how like they were like, well, the bouncer failed. I'll just reuse this character though. I like him. And so they just made him the star of like what is now like a 7-game Disney franchise thing.
Whoa, wait, they look like Kingdom Hearts characters?
No, Sion does. Sion looks like Sora.
The main character looks like Sora.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
we're looking this up because I want to see. Oh,
Here, I can just grab a picture of it.
Yeah, just go on Google.
No,
if you just type Sion Sora, the first result is usually an image comparing the two of them.
Yep,
because they're basically the same person. Like
I was imagining like very burly people and stuff. Can you go to the character?
No,
fighting
Sora
list?
is just Sion with clown proportions. Like I got poofy shorts now and poofy shoes and a keyblade, but everything else is like the same notes, note for note, to the point of being weird.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wait,
these are,
is Volt Kruger actually an Oni, or does he have just those body
Volt
modification horns?
Volt has heavy body mod, but also like Volt is like one of those go-to like one of my favorite failed cosplays that comes up a lot. There's a lot of people cosplay Volt Kruger and it never works out.
Oh, yeah.
They always
the thing
screw
is,
it up.
Nobody is swole enough to cosplay as some of these people.
No.
You're not swole enough to cosplay as Volt Kruger. You're not swole enough to cosplay as the Hulk. Every well, I mean, not even like cosplay at that point. Like Halloween Hulk costumes are always sad.
There's so many.
This is interesting. Wong Leong. I mean, he looks like some sage man right out of some Chinese.
That guy literally gets introduced to the game just to die. Like he shows up and. Because you get to Mikado's mansion when you're done with the first third of the game, and you arrive at Wong. Wong is there, and Wong is apparently Duragon's master, and like Duragon is his apprentice. But also Sion was also Wong's apprentice, so it's like
Yes.
it's that trope of like the good apprentice sees the bad apprentice kill the master, but it's literally Wong's first scene in the game is him getting killed that way. He never does anything in the entire game, and there's no reason to introduce him to the story. It's like it's one of those details.
It sticks to drama, man.
it's one of those 500 details that are so like jammed into such a short runtime that I'm like, this really feels like somebody wrote like an anime or like a full story like thing that was 3 seasons long, and then a game blew through it in 2 hours because they couldn't get it adapted into anything else. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the story was pitched to somebody else first, and only the game company actually picked it up after like their 3rd attempt, and like that's why it became a video game, even though the story doesn't work at all, because it moves so fast for some reason.
Well, yeah. So that's a blast from the past.
Oh
The
yeah,
bouncer
that game is
sucks.
it sucks so much, and I love it. I love the way it sucks. It's burned into my brain. And apparently it is for you, too. It's one of those bad games that you remember forever.
The launch title, man. We bought a PS2, and then we were like, oh, what game should we get for it? We have 3 options.
So
One of which is medieval, one of which is like, I don't know, SSX Tricky or something, I don't even remember, and one of which was the bouncer. And the bouncer sucked.
So I got another example of dumb thing for the bouncer, which is that in the bouncer, you can clearly see that the logo has like a paragraph of text on it, but because it's a PS2 game, you can't even come close to reading it. Like, it's completely impossible. There's just a bunch of text there, so you either have to look it up online or squint at the cover of the game, because it's actually the summary of the premise of the game, just on the logo. But like the primary place you see it is on the start screen, where it's just like a weird blurry nightmare that they never checked to see if it would be readable. It felt like finding the decoder ring in a cereal box when I realized that it actually had text on it I could read.
Well, we're at about the end of the podcast. Does anyone have any last minute topics they want to bring up? Oh,
yeah,
questions.
I do.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Well, let's do questions next time. This is way too short for questions, unless Keith has one that's been burning a hole
we
in
could
his
finish
inbox.
the one from before, because we already talked about the wait. No? Never mind. I don't think we actually did touch on this topic. Never mind.
Okay. Well, in Shells and I's experiments in dietary things, we've been experimenting with yogurts, because Whole Foods has a huge selection of yogurt that are fairly good. I think we mentioned having almond yogurt a couple weeks back. Well, today we decided to pick up cashew yogurt instead.
Oh, how did that go?
Tastes like almond yogurt, but like a little bit more palatable. It is funky, though. It's like...
Liquid.
It's not yogurt. Yeah, it's like almost kind of this jelly-like thing, but it tastes like yogurt. It's so bizarre.
Huh.
I don't understand veganism, but my forays into it are magic.
You find very interesting things, I guess.
Yes, very.
That's
it. That's all.
I've had some vegan food. I had vegan cheese once, and that's pointless. Why? Vegan cheese tastes so bad, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't. I could never go vegan. I don't think that's. I just like dairy. I like dairy. I could do vegetarian just fine, but
I like
vegan's
pizza.
too much. Yeah.
It's like the least vegan thing
I was
ever.
gonna say everything on a pizza is like non-vegan, so there you go.
Or it's not like we're
The
trying
tomato.
to eat more vegan food. It's just there's interesting things, but
Yeah, when we go to Whole Foods, it's like well,
there's
here's a bunch
cashew
of regular
cheese dip.
stuff.
That was good.
And then there's some bizarre stuff. Let's go with the bizarre stuff.
The cashew cheese dip was good.
It was very good. Pricey, though. That's the one problem I have
But-
with veganism. It's so expensive.
Yeah, it is very expensive.
It's funny outside right now because all the not Squirtles.
Squirt.
Turns out we live at Pallet Town. News to me.
No, all of the Squirtle. I'm saying it again. All of the squirrels are currently vying for territory and battling over all of the acorns and fruits and anything that's fallen on the ground, and it's hilarious. But yeah, so we're just walking
Have you
along
caught
the
any
path
of them?
and- No.
I wouldn't forgive her.
They're like chittering and squealing at one another and whacking their tails, and
Are they using tail whips?
No, not in that way. They're using Lear and I don't know what other ones. Not supersonic. They don't have that. What would you call roar? No, they don't roar either. They don't
Squirtles or squirrels?
That's it.
That's the Gen
noise
1
they're
sound.
making. Ew.
I summon you, Pikachu.
Sitting
That's
here
what they
explain.
all sounded like.
So while we were talking about the developers of Primordia, they started messaging me on Twitter.
Funny.
I don't think they're watching right now, so I think that's just a coincidence. But I'm like sitting here explaining to them on Twitter my editing style, basically, because they're like,
What if the developer of Soma, or not of Soma, of the Redwall game started messaging us and being like, I heard what you said about me.
it wouldn't be the first time that a developer got mad at me. That's how I met you guys.
Yeah, but you can barely call the people that got mad at you developers.
No, yeah,
They
they're
were insults
embarrassing.
to the title of developer.
No. Yeah. Like Joe and Andrew went to like a Siftio Cube game dev conference with the guy that made Frog Fractions, and they made a Yu-Gi-Oh! Rock Paper Scissors game with those in a game jam, and that was more of a game than Smash a Seal.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're wondering how I get through without getting stuck constantly in their game. And the trick is that I realized that if I open the inventory screen of the game, there's nothing moving on the screen, so I can just sit there and brainstorm for as long as I want to if I'm genuinely stuck, and then crossfade it, and no one will be able to see or hear the edit.
Wow. You really do that?
Yeah,
That's false advertising, Keith.
False advertising. That's not even like what any of those words mean.
Yeah, you're being super Agamemnon about this and you're false advertising.
Agamemnon. You're gonna have to
Stop
decode
self-sabotaging me, Keith.
Wait, what does this have to do with King Agamemnon?
Bird is trying to crash this podcast
He's just saying
as hard
words
as possible.
I'm not trying, I'm succeeding.
He's just successfully saying words. You did it.
Now, was he the king of Medea? And
Medea's Christmas?
No.
All right,
Because
let's
there's
have
also
this
Medea goes
break.
to Christmas.
Thanks
Because
for watching, everybody.
His
You know,
brother
that-
was
that- that
Menelaus was
horrible
the king of
noises.
Sparta.
That one place where
Hey,
Christmas happens.
At least in the Odyssey.
Three nerds and a cow signing off, I guess.
Wow, we actually went back to that.
I didn't have anything else to put on the brakes. I figure pure noise. That'll do it.
Keith,
Our fourth
you
cast
have something
member,
you want to...
the cow.
Do you have one more point you're making, or did I
Oh,
destroy
no.
everything?
Agamemnon
really.
was the king of Mycenae, I think. Sorry, I got
I thought it
my
was the
end.
king of Greece. I don't know.
Well, no. There are different parts of Greece.
No,
His
it's
brother
not.
was the king of Sparta, Menelaus. So Agamemnon, Menelaus.
Okay, we need to stop before we start going to like history IMDb.
Yeah. No, this is a topic
That's
that
just
has
called
no end.
Wikipedia, you nerd.
No. See you guys
Oh.
next time. Send your messages to fournerdsquestions@gmail.com, and maybe we'll answer them sometime next year when we answer questions again. We keep having games to talk about. We have a lot of catching up to do when people are gone for a month. See you guys next time.